Welcome back to Army Live, where we're broadcasting all week from a rather noisy Lark Hill Artillery Barracks. I'm Corporal Hamish Gorsuch-Wright, and today's event is called As an Army for Everyone. In a moment, we're going to introduce some guests for a panel discussion about diversity and inclusion. So far this week, we've hosted two fantastic events. One about life in the Army, and one about different career opportunities available. We've had some great discussions and loads of brilliant questions from you, our audience. If you missed either of these events, you'll be able to find the recordings on the Army Jobs website. And if you have any questions about diversity and inclusion in the Army, please type them into the chat box you see next to this stream. Even if we don't answer it in our panel, one of our moderators will be able to help. And don't forget, we've got our final event, all about Army Reserves, coming up at the same time tomorrow. But now, let's meet our panel. Panel, thank you for joining us. So can you tell everyone a bit about yourselves? Let's start from the left.
I am Sergeant Emmanuel Nate. I am a military personnel administrator, part of the Adjutant General School Staff and Personal Support Branch. I've been in the Army almost 10 years now.
My name's Corporal St John. I'm with the Royal Engineers. My job role is a heating and plumbing engineer. I'm also a recruiting coordinator for the Army.
Hi, I'm Warrant Officer Class 1 Kelly Caswell-Treen. I am a combat medical technician in the Royal Army Medical Corps, and I've served nearly 20 years.
Hi, my name is Crossman Shimarite. I am a vehicle mechanic in the Royal Electrical Mechanic Engineers, and I've been in roughly 3 years.
I am Staff Sergeant Savjit Singh, work in the Army Air Corps. I've been in the Army for now 18 years.
I'm Sergeant Lucy Foreman. I am a member of the Royal Military Police, and I've been in the Army 12 years.
So actually got lots of experience, lots of different time served in the Army, really diverse panel. So, Corporal St John, what were your expectations when you thought about joining the Army?
Expectations? To be honest, I had some friends who joined before I did. When I came out of school, I didn't have any direction. They basically told me what life was like and how much they were enjoying it, which just brought me on board, and I just went for it then.
Amazing. Carson Wright, you probably are our newest soldier on the panel. Were you surprised by anything in basic training?
Yes, because I've never really done anything like that before in my entire life. So the training was really different, like the tabs with weights. I've never carried bargain on my back. I've never slept in a field, but it was a good experience and I enjoyed it.
And what was your biggest challenge?
I would say my biggest challenge was carrying weights on my back, because I'm not really of a strong build, but I managed to pull through.
Amazing. Mum, so you've been about 20 years. What changes have you seen in that 20 years?
Gosh, numerous changes. So I joined back in 2003. So during that period, I was able to join an organisation that welcomed me being a lesbian. I felt very fortunate that I was able to bring my true self to work, but that wasn't the same for many more before me. Throughout 20 years, though, between conflicts, between self-development, personal development, looking after people, so much has changed. Being a servicewoman and certainly seeing the changes as I've gone through the ranks, becoming more of a minority in a very masculine dominated environment, I've seen diversity and inclusion excel, whereby we are but one team, regardless of your background, your sex, your colour, or your creed. So I think that's absolutely something that should be celebrated as we move forward.
Amazing. So would you agree with that stuff, that representation has improved in the Army over the last kind of...
Absolutely. If we talk about the past and present, the Army has gone through a big transformation in terms of the diversity and inclusion and the education side of it. If I look back on my own experience, I was fully practice Sikh before I joined the Army, but going into it, not knowing what was allowed and wasn't allowed, would I be able to practice my religion? So I gave up on practicing side of my religion. But when I sort of like going through my basic training, then sort of like the support, the education, and the sort of like the cultural shift for myself and for the permanent staff was great. And then as you go through the basic training and then seeing the transformation during that time to where the Army is now is a bit more diverse, inclusive, and I think a bit more embrace the culture a bit more.
So for everyone watching at home, what's kind of one thing that we could say that actually has changed over the last kind of few years and put their minds at ease, really, if anyone is thinking about that? Please, we haven't come to you yet. I haven't forgotten about you.
No, so I think for me, being sort of gay in the Army, I've been really, really fortunate that it's become increasingly normalised to a point where you can come into the Army, and it's just not even an issue. You are who you are. All of our backgrounds bring something to the table, and I think the Army is focusing more now on what individual strengths people can bring, and it's embracing that difference rather than sort of vilifying differences. I think that's the best change that we've seen, and that has become part of Army culture now. So that, for me, has been a really good transition, I think, since I've been in.
And so what support and structures are in the Army for people? I know I'm part of the Women's Network. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so 7 years ago, we established the Army Servicewomen's Network. That's gone from strength to strength, even if it's a conversation point of asking about a certain policy. It gives people an opportunity to ask them questions and to get an answer that is relevant on that day. But also, as I alluded to, it's still a very masculine environment, and sometimes you are the minority, and sometimes it's just nice to be able to reach out to a network to have a bit of support or to see you in that forum. And by doing so, we are setting our people up for success, in my opinion.
So you're part of the Sikh network, aren't you?
Yes, so I'm part of the Defence Sikh Network. I'm also part of Army Multicultural Network as well. I think that sort of networks provide a really good support to the chain of command and to the soldier itself. So there's an inclusive environment and where we can truly unlock the potential of an individual.
And for everyone, has anyone had any positive experiences that maybe the people watching might not have heard of that you want to share?
I think people were surprised by how modernised the Army and defence in general has become in terms of actually getting that message out on different platforms. The Army, I know that the RAF and the Navy have their own sort of systems, but each force has almost like a Facebook forum platform that is actually endorsed by each force, that you can go on there, you can find answers, you can find communities within communities that, if you're not necessarily comfortable talking to someone in your unit, well, you've got the whole force to speak to, and everything's connected. And I think that is a great sort of communications improvement in terms of reaching out, reaching the right people, and sending the right message out as well.
I think we touched on practicing faith earlier. How easy is it in the Army to practice faith?
I mean, they allow a lot of people to practice their faith right now. So, I mean, whether you're Rastafarian or Sikh, you'd go speak to your chain of command, and if there were certain specific dates of your religion that you would like to go away and get and practice and do, or like say pray or go to an event, you'd speak to your chain of command, and they would allow you to go off and do that as they see fit. You just have to let them know, make them aware of it, and as long as they're aware of it, they will help you to go off and do that if necessary.
So for people watching at home that have got different ideas, that want to bring change, what advice and what impact do you think new recruits can have?
I'd say, just speak up. Don't suffer in silence. If you feel there's anything that you want to see change, just talk about it. Because one thing the Army is really good at is after any type of course, training, anything, there will usually be an invol, and then you're able to obviously voice your concerns or comments, and just put it in there if you feel you want to see something being changed. And policy can sometimes take a while to change. However, the Army is receptive to making changes, as you've already heard. So, you want to join the Army and you want to say something, just I think say or ask the question, because 9 times out of 10 it's been brought up before, and then this answer's floating about already.
Do you think the Army, internally, have changed a lot? Because I think a lot of people watching this will think the Army's kind of like shut up and do what you're told, and we're talking about kind of voicing our opinions, and that's kind of probably changed in the last kind of few years. That's more prevalent now.
There is an element of that, because it's the Army at the end of the day, but I think that was more to do with, we're in peacetime now. If we're in the middle of a conflict, there's a time and a place. If you're getting told to do something, it's because there's a need for it. And in the workplace environment, in sort of everyday life, it's not necessarily that you will receive. You'll get your orders. You'll sort of talk about it. But there's more room now to actually question why you're going a particular order, so you can understand it. The Army wants thinking soldiers, and you can't think if you just blindly follow orders. So there's way more room now to actually understand why you've been ordered to do something, how that benefits you as an individual, but also how that benefits the Army and the company that you're involved with, because that's the family ethos that we all get. We work together as a team to sort of reach that common goal. But we actually develop people now. There's way more focus on coaching and mentoring. I don't know for everyone else, but I've got a diploma now in policing and mentoring. I've done sort of teaching elements. I don't know how many people here have probably used standard learning credits or like just yeah.
Totally agree with that. As I said, that I'm doing my master's in defense leadership. I think Army's understood the need to have more educated, developed, and thinking soldiers, as you said it, because without that, we're just kind of defeating the purpose. The more thinking heads we have, the more sort of better and positive ideas will come, and that will feed into the pipeline where we can, as an organization, could be a lot better compared to what we were and what could be in the future.
And the Army actually provides the funds for it as well. You know, as a military personal administrator myself, you know, there's standard learning credits, as you mentioned, there's enhanced learning credit, and there's opportunities to go away and do so many different things. There's adventurous training as well that you can do.
What is the main thing you'd say to someone who's considering a career in the Army?
So because I'm in recruiting as well, when I go about, I let them know that there's like 7 different streams that the Army with over 200 jobs that we can employ them in. You can be a pilot, you can be a design draftsman, an electrician and stuff like that. We have jobs for them, and you can apply for apprenticeships, bursaries, all that stuff. So
I think if you've thought about it, just go for it. Like personally, like development, your confidence will just sort of skyrocket. Anything sort of like social skills, you'll get a social element out of it. You'll sort of get, you know, the education piece, the confidence piece, and you might find a career that you've not even really anticipated, because there literally is something for everyone in the Army. At the end of the day, we employ people from the whole country, and so we've got to represent. You know, we're a self-contained organisation, so it's like you said, we've got jobs that you wouldn't even realise. I don't think many people realise we've got police or dental nurses. So yeah, there's something for everyone. So if you think about it, just go for it.
I think it's the profession with a long career, if you want to, with the so many skills, you know, which has continuous training, development, and growth, and which turns into be a confident individual. And I think, you know, I cannot thank enough to the Army who I am today. It's just because of that continuous training, growth, and development.
yeah, it's I'd say as well, it's not just that, it's the benefits that you receive from the Army as well, like welfare. You get subsidized housing, food, accommodation, and stuff like that. Someone who'd likely pay about £2,000 for a 3-bedroom flat in central London, the Army heavily subsidised that, so you're not out of pocket, and then you can look after your family and literally pay for what's more important.
And I mean, just to add to that as well, I think one of my concerns before I joined was because I was very skinny. I was a very smallish guy. I didn't say much, shy, you know. So I had concerns of how will I be able to join, you know. But I think the Army opened my eyes. It just gave me the opportunity to build my confidence. And again, I said I used to be very skinny. I mean, now you can tell that I'm not that skinny anymore, clearly. I hope you're looking at my arms. But I'm just saying that it's given me the opportunity to sort of train myself physically, mentally, and be able to be a fit individual. So I think there is an Army for anyone who, you know, you might not physically or mentally think that you're ready for it or you can do it, but there's people from all sorts of background, people from all sorts of different, you know, lifestyles who have managed to obviously join the Army and make a better life and a career out of it. So I'd say if you've thought about it, why not go for it?
So for everyone on the panel, what were your expectations when you came into the Army?
Well, for me, I think it's in my head, I thought you had to be uber fit. You had to be the fittest person in your community, actually, to be able to join the army. Because the videos you see online, it's very arduous activities. But actually, what I realized that the army helped me get fit. It helped me with that journey. So I needed that basic fitness. And then once I was in, the army helped me with my journey. So yeah, for me, that was pretty much it.
I just want to travel, to be honest. That's what I got up for. I was like, okay, I can do policing stuff, but I can travel and I can also play football. Those were like my 20-year-old priorities in life. So that was key for me.
We touched on travelling earlier. I've been to Oman, Canada, Cyprus, Kenya, all over Europe. Where's the best place everyone's been?
Loads, loads. Where shall we start from? I think well, I was lucky enough to be deployed on Exercise Crimson Eagle. That was 4 months in the United States of America. Just so traveling different parts. For example, we were based in El Centro, then we were traveling to Puma, and then different parts of the United States in order to allow the training pilots to get trained. In terms of I play cricket, I've been to Caribbean, Barbados, Sri Lanka, South Africa. Anybody more in the pipeline?
I've been to Germany, Northern Ireland. I've been to Iraq, Afghanistan, Jordan, Qatar, Kuwait. So there is scope to go basically do some adventure training while you're down there. And I was fortunate to do that in my time.
Yeah, I threw myself out of a plane once in Cyprus for a week.
I was going to say that.
Yeah,
Best place to get
Best
any
place,
adventure
yeah.
training calls, isn't
Yeah,
it?
best AT. Where's best AT? I went horse riding in Canada. That was amazing.
I did mine in Cyprus. When there was like a water sports, which was quite fun. Doing jet skiing and all that stuff. And then basically it's like a decompression phase from when you come from operations. On an operational tour, we'd go there and we'd spend like about a couple of days there before we head back to the UK. Guys would go, we'd drink, and then we'd go down and have some fun before we head back home, which was quite good.
Skiing as well, isn't it? That's
Yes.
a great
Yeah.
opportunity.
Yeah, everyone's
Yeah.
skiing.
Yeah.
I haven't been fortunate to do skiing.
Have you not? Oh, you're missing on the elements.
Don't
I'm
know,
telling you, you need to go to the Austria, to the Alps or Switzerland, especially. I think during this time in the army, everyone pretty much deploy on skiing with that's Nordic or whatever they call now, different cab badges.
And I like that you mentioned skydiving, because I did it in Sevilla, Spain, and I never thought I'd be able to do that. But just the doors opening, and then you stand at the edge of
That's
the plane,
the worst bit, isn't
and
it?
then
Like, hanging
you're like,
your
oh,
leg
I
on the
nearly
plane.
fell, and I'm like, mate, you're trying to jump out of the plane, So it's actually it's a great experience, and I did it 21 times in Spain, and then it's like I had to change my boxer shorts every time because it felt like you're literally just, it's that scary, but it's a great experience, and I loved it, yeah.
So with the army, what's improved over the last kind of 20, 10, 8 years that I've been in? What's the biggest changes you guys have seen?
Everything's better in some ways. Like the accommodation's better. Like the way we do fitness is better. The way we like the flexible working hours. It's like you said with the platforms and the communication. You don't have to. You can work more from home if you need to, especially if you've got kids and whatnot.
I think it is more towards the one change I can see is the leadership change. I think the leaders are more now empathetically or more sympathetic or empathy. It's more empathy because they're investing time, in the workforce, understanding the individual needs. For example, like you said, that the flexible working hours, allow working from home, and I think those laptops. I think that sort of mindset has changed in terms of leadership, allowing you to be more comfortable and more beneficial.
Bigger emphasis on like coaching and mentoring, and
Yes.
if allowing people to like giving room for mistakes, as in like if you have messed up, it's not a case of fearing that you're going to get in trouble. There's going to be some sort of discipline action. It's more of, okay, I know I can admit that I've made this mistake because I know I'm going to get educated on where to go right next. I think there's way more of that nowadays than just getting absolutely ripped apart for not shining your boot properly.
Also, I think more like now, if you say or suggest something, your leaders are willing to listen to you, and I think that's the key thing. Followership,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, it's just if you have your opinion, if you have any concerns or anything which is sort of having that toxic culture within your work environment, you can be open and honest about it, and you can speak to someone and people will actually do something about it and try to take that sort of element out, and people can perform better within a team and achieve that common goal.
Do we think representation's improved in your time in the army?
Yes, because if you look at the last 10 years, the amount of support networks we have established, that's due to representation. Now each faith can have their own sort of platform, whether that's Army Service Network, whether that's Presbyterian networks, Defense Network, or multicultural networks. They are there to support, as we discussed, to the soldiers and to the chain of command. So I think in terms of that, representation has massively been increased, and I think it has positively contributed towards that.
Yeah, I mean, when I was a private before, like they back then they didn't have much representation, so I didn't have much people like me I could have go to and speak to about certain situations, because people didn't know sort of what I was going through, because there's not that sort of representation when I was there. But now there is that now, and I can be that sort of thing for the new generation coming in who need that sort of advice. So I'll speak to them and whatever and point them in the right direction. And also the mistakes that I've made, I could basically mentor them and say, like, look, this is how to go about a situation if you're having an issue, especially whether it be with someone or with a situation. Just speaking to people and mentoring them is pretty good.
Yeah. So for people should know, what are networks and communities in the army? What is a network?
I think you're part of Army Service Network.
So I've been part of the Army Servicewomen's Network for 7 years. It is a platform to be able to maximise the talents of our minority, and being a servicewoman, whereby it's 12% of the British Army, the makeup at the moment. There are times, certainly in my career, where I felt I'm probably been the only person to be able to reach out to a network, to speak to like-minded individuals, but even just to have a sounding board as to what potentially may be a problem for me, might be a problem for a other also. But to demonstrate that glass ceilings are being shattered also. We are seeing more senior women coming up through the ranks. And I think, the Euro finals this year, where we saw our British Lionesses perform so well, a great quote, you have to see it to be it. We're now seeing it, and because we're seeing it, it's inspiring the newer generation, the generation that we're reaching out to today, that we are an equal opportunist employer, and that we welcome you.
Yeah.
And has everyone had interaction with networks?
Yes, I mean, I am part of the Army Multicultural Network, just as yourself, Sav. But so the network is there to inform, inspire, and empower individuals, and not just the individuals, but also the chain of command as well. Because I think if the chain of command understands, people from different cultures and backgrounds, it enables them to be able to lead them appropriately. So, the AMCN, the Army Multicultural Network, they go out and have road shows. They go to some training establishments. Sometimes they go to units, and then they just have the conversation. Because sometimes it will be a difficult conversation, but I think as long as that conversation is had, usually solutions come out of it, and they help inform policy as well. So if there's any changes that they feel needs to be made, they're that influential that they can get up to the top and make these changes happen. Talking about representation as well, I think sometimes it's not always there at all levels. I mean, when I joined, there wasn't, it's not like there wasn't, but I didn't see many black officers. I genuinely didn't see many. And at one point I actually went to Google and I literally just typed in black army officers, and I saw one and I took a screenshot of him, and I was like, that's a legend. Because again, to me, it's just like, if you don't see anyone like yourself at a certain level, sometimes you don't aspire to be there, but me seeing that, and I mean, now there's so many, and I think it just helps inspire people to also know that it's possible, and this is not the ceiling. So, yeah.
I think every faith in the British Army now has a network, if not then satellite networks. But the overall arching mission, I believe, for every support network is to connect, engage, and educate. These are sort of three words I can think, in my opinion, is that whether, they can, connect with yourselves, with like soldiers or chain of command, engage the issues are having or any sort of concerns are there, and then educate, whether that's chain of command onto the individual by just changing their mindset, attitude to be, in a positive way. So that's what my opinion is about that.
Yeah, like I'm also part of the Rastafarian network, and before, about 10 years ago, you wouldn't see men with hair in the army. You'd have to be clean shaven and your hair at a certain height. All that's changed now, and so there is representation for all sorts of religions and practices. So.
Moving on, like talking about families, they're difficult. What's it like with the army and kind of family life?
I think Army is quite good now at taking the domestic circumstance into considerations. Allows you, for example, to be flexible working hours for single parents, or any other sort of situation in terms of that. I think that really helps individuals and or single parents as well. So brilliant support system around it as well. If you have any sort of situation, they can always signpost you, whether that's to the welfare system or any other the organizations around it. And I think chain of command is quite keen to assist you in terms of, so it does not impact your performance at work and still performing as you would do.
To touch on that as well, it's good with the welfare as well, because I'm from the Caribbean, and in sort of compassionate circumstances, when I have a family member who's quite close to me back home, and if they're unfortunate, they're passed away, the army would allow me to fly me back to go see and pay my respects to that family member if I needed to. Whereas I wouldn't be stuck here. I've been on deployment and a family member's passed away, and I've been flown from my deployment back to the UK and back home to St. Lucia. So that's pretty decent and pretty good.
They've always been like that as well, because like I was in Afghan and I had a similar situation. I'd lost someone in my family, and it was devastating. And they took that into account and they flew me back so that I could actually attend the funeral and then come back out. But since peacetime, it's way better as well. I've seen so many examples of just the army taking into consideration family and kids, and even helping with school and private school or just nurseries and stuff like that. You see like nurseries at barracks where you can sort of drop your kids off. And
notwithstanding only a few decades ago, you could not be serving in our organisation as a servicewoman. When you notified your chain of command, you were shown the door. That was your service done and
For being
ended.
pregnant?
Absolutely. So you look at where we were to where we are now. We've certainly got a better view on how we manage our people. And it's not just our servicewomen, our male counterparts. It's not just a woman's issue to look after the children at home. Actually, we've gone in far greater depth now to acknowledge that it's our people who have families, who have to look after their little ones. I'm fortunate, or not so, depending on what morning it is. I've got a 6-year-old. I've also got a wife who is serving. I never thought in a million years that I would have to sit down on a Friday, have to work out diaries between me and my wife as to who would do childcare, who wouldn't. It can be very complex. That's the reality of the life that we choose to lead. What I would say, though, is the biggest change is that our leaders, our people, we acknowledge that we are individuals and our individual needs can be catered for. We do have flexible working. That doesn't work for all, but it works for the majority.
I think the sort of like, if you have to wrap these things, the army allows you to create your own work-life balance. It gives you that sort of freedom, the flexibility, whether you have to come up with, okay, what works for me, what doesn't work for me. And that doesn't necessarily work for everyone, but as a majority of them. That's what is good, as long as you've been given that sort of freedom to come up with your own balance. I think that's the key thing.
It's not always as well, like different jobs and cap badges vary, but for the most part, we're getting it right now.
But I also think it's really important to acknowledge that this is not an 8 till 5 job. What we do is 365 days, 24 hours per day. And that brings its own challenges. It can be positive, but equally at a notice to move, that can also bring its own challenges and can be quite tricky to manage, both with your family, but also you as an individual.
Yeah, I think it's good to make your family manage the expectations to know that there are times where that can happen, so they can prepare themselves for it. Because at the end of the day, you join to do a job, and if they call you out to do that job, you would have to go out and do what you're getting paid to do. So yeah, it's just basically inform your family that of these sort of situations, and if they're relatively in the know and they know it can happen at some time, they can prepare themselves for it.
Thank you very much, panel. Some absolutely fantastic answers there. We're not going to let you go anywhere just yet, as you can put some of our audience's questions to you. So let's put some of the questions you've been sending in to our panel. So first question, let's go for, what has made you stay in the army? Cool, I think.
Yeah, I could answer that. So for me personally, it's just basically not only the qualifications that I've received throughout the time that I've spent here, going from having just GCSEs to going up to a degree level, but also as an engineer, when I deploy out on operations or anywhere, and I get to put what I learn in the army into practice, and help people out where we go and build schools and stuff like that. And people thank you for that sort of work that you do. It's quite a rewarding feeling.
How often can I go home if I'm not from the UK? Let's go for Sergeant Leah, let's go for you.
Yeah, so we as soldiers and officers, we get 38 days of annual leave. So as long as you're on your leave period, whether Easter leave, summer leave, or Christmas leave, you can go home as many times as you wish. Again, weekends are yours. So of course, if you want to travel home, you can. And if you're posted overseas, like myself in Belfast, if I want to come back to the UK, the army actually pays for my travel to come back, which is great. But again, for people who, from the Commonwealth countries, say somewhere in Africa or the Caribbean, if you enlisted from that country, there's a leave called DONCO, and then it allows you to go back to your family, back home, and then see your family and come back. And the army actually also pays for that, so for you to travel back and come in. And then also they give you sort of the time off. So there's that provision, and the soldiers who have benefited from it. Don't know if you've actually used it before.
Oh, I have indeed.
Oh, okay, okay.
Did not know that existed.
Oh,
I'm
you
learning.
do now.
I'm learning too. Next one, let's have a look through. Are people considerate to different needs I might have, for example, with my religion? Staff, you mentioned you're in the Sikh network. Probably one for you to take.
Yeah, that's right. ARM is quite very inclusive in terms of when it comes to the individual needs, whether that's the cultural need or faith-related needs. Basic training I have seen, when they do the human analysis, the people who are joining the army, they go through what specific individuals belongs to what religion, and they speak to the subject matter expert in order to establish what could be accommodated before you arrive here. If they do miss you out on the list, that's not a problem. They can always approach the subject matter expert again, saying, look, I have a soldier who belongs to either Sikh, Muslim, or any other networks. We might have these issues, for example, like if a Sikh soldier who requires a turban, how do we go about it, right? That's not a problem. We can procure through the QM's department. If there's a female Muslim soldiers who practicing religion and it requires a hijab, that's again provided by the army to facilitate the needs. Any other needs, for example, if you are veganism by religions, you require specific material made clothing or the boots, again, army can look into it and could provide you one, because the army realized if the importance of the cultural and faith-related needs can actually have the positive impact on your performance, which can benefit the organization.
Amazing. Tough one. Let's have a look. What's one piece of advice you wish you'd had before you joined? Sergeant, put you on the spot.
Get a decent iron.
Good iron.
Yeah, we make a joke of that, but get a decent iron. Advice, though, probably, it's actually hard to give advice if you're going to join, because for me, I've not regretted any moment of it. I think don't worry about it, as in, I know that a lot of people will have anxiety or, they'll have preconceptions about coming into it, but actually the army is a really good place to just develop yourself. If you're into sport, you get paid to play sports. You'll meet friends for life. So my advice is if you're thinking about it, just go for it and take the opportunities that come your way, because the army's got plenty of them for you.
Would you suggest doing a bit of health, as in like weight training or like physical stuff?
Probably, yeah. I mean, I was pretty heavy into football, so like my fitness was already at a decent level. But I think, yeah, strengthening condition is in like weight bearing. But that, it's like we mentioned before, that comes naturally with the army. So I think even with the fitness, as long as you've got a pretty decent standard, you don't need to worry too much even with that, because the army will train you on point. And you'll you know, through the recruitment process, you can sort of speak on that more. You'll get told the standards that you need to be as a minimum to be able to sort of put you in good stead for joining the army. So yeah.
Yeah, with recruitment, it's like a progressive thing that we at the recruitment center will help nurture you into the role that you're going into. We're not just going to send you out there blind and just give you a bit of paperwork and say, we'll make sure we call you every sort of couple of weeks to find out where you are in your application process, what else you need to do, what were your fitness standards, advise you on how to get your fitness up, even put in sort of events where a personal trainer would come in and speak to you about your nutrition and how to get to where you need to be if you're not at that level yet. So when you do come to do your assessment center, you are quite unprepared and you're not going there and failing or whatever. So the only time you probably might have a mess up is if you injure yourself while you're there. But you'll probably be well prepared before we send you off to the assessment center.
Amazing. Craftsman, right, you mentioned you joined recently, you're kind of our newest soldier on the panel. What did your friends think?
So my friends had mixed emotions. Some were supportive and positive about me joining the army, while others were negative. The ones that were positive and supportive were the ones who understood the history and the contribution made by the army, and the ones that were negative were the ones who were probably misled by their own opinion. Yeah, but overall, most of them were pretty much happy.
Mum, I'm going to come to you the next one. I'm conscious we haven't gone to you yet. What are you most proud of accomplishing during your time in the army?
I'm really proud and fortunate to be able to put on my uniform each day. I have a real deep sense of pride for what the British Army upholds, its values, its standards. And I get to come to work doing the things that I enjoy the most, but I also get the opportunity to work with great people such as these servicemen and women that you have here on your panel today.
And that's all we have time for with our panel today. Thank you all for taking part and discussing your experiences with us.